see the world through other people's eyes. Now, empathy is a quality of character that can change the world.
Good morning and welcome to Artefact Live, the art and science of storytelling with me, Scott MacArthur. We've reached episode 45 of the vlog, now pod, because I've launched the vlog as a podcast last night at, I think it was 18 minutes past 12 UK time last night. I turned this into a podcast. So that's been interesting. I may talk about that later. I may not. I'll see how I feel about it. But it's been quite tiring. Thanks very much for your patience last week. Me and Spider-Man, Toby Maguire, had some technical difficulties, and as you recognised, and it was really annoying. But we got it working eventually on Zoom, and we had a terrific conversation. And thanks ever so much for the feedback. It's been one of the most popular shows that we've actually done. So meditation's clearly something people are interested in. And Toby and I have had a chat about it, and I think you might be there, Toby. If you are, hello. And I think we will have another show quite soon, because we scratched the surface on the fascinating topic of meditation. But thanks again for tuning in. It's really good of you. Now, if you've never watched the show before, please put your name and where you're coming in from in the chat so I can at least say hello to you. If you're watching on replay, do the same, and we'll respond to you after we see your comment later on in the week. It's been fascinating to look at the data, because I get most of my views on replay. And I don't know what that says about our appetite for live video on the various platforms, but I'm thinking about it, and we'll see how it goes over the next few weeks, because I might tweak things a little bit, because there's definitely been some changes in people's behaviour since we've started to come out of lockdown. But I'm keeping an eye on it, and I'll change the format if you tell me I need to. But I think at the moment we're going to keep going and continue to do the broadcast at 11:30 every Tuesday morning UK time. So this week, I'm delighted to say I've got a special guest, and Yvonne Dam is joining us, and I'll put Yvonne's camera on just in a second. And we're going to talk about something, a really interesting story. And if you saw the title of the show this week, it's different probably from all the other titles I've had, because it's quite an active title. It's about how to become the CEO of your own life. And when Yvonne contacted me and asked if I'd be interested to have her on the show, and absolutely, I love it when people contact me, and then I looked at her website and I really liked it, and I thought, right, okay, so we had a chat and right away we hit it off. So she's on the show today. So without any further ado, I'm just going to switch your camera on, Yvonne. Here we go. Good morning.
Good morning, Scott.
Good to see you. So where are you joining us from today?
I am today in The Hague, the Netherlands. So just across the pond, as they say, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I've been in The Hague. It's quite a nice place, actually, isn't it? It's quite beautiful.
It is amazing. And I live next to the beach, so I'm very fortunate.
Oh, maybe I should just stop this now because I'm jealous. I think my partner and I, Samantha, are at the furthest point it's possible to be from the sea in the United Kingdom. And we both absolutely love the sea. So... oh dear. So can you give us a little bit of background about I'd like to hear your own story, if you don't mind. Everyone does. Everyone that tunes into the show likes to hear everyone's story and how you got to this really interesting way of making a living, because I am really interested in it, and I'm sure everyone else will be. So let's have a small biography, if you don't mind, Yvonne.
Sure. No, I would be happy to share my story. So I started my career within one of the big 4 consultancy firms. And that's really where I grew up, I almost should say. I had an amazing time. I worked as a consultant. I think I've done 7 careers my entire life. And yeah, I know. There's more to come, right?
Yes.
And the thing is, I'm not sure, maybe, I know you, Scott, have the personal experience, and maybe some of the listeners or the viewers as well, but it is really it can be a very tough environment to work in, because it's very pressured for time. You are always on the clock. Whenever you work on a client's case, you need to write your time. Whenever you think about a client, you need to write your time. And actually, it is all about really, really working hard, putting in the hours. The jokes about when you go to the elevator at 7 p.m. at night and they joke, "Oh, are you taking the afternoon off?" Those are real.
Right.
And I can be very honest, I loved it. I loved every part of it. I really did well. I thrived, and I became a workaholic because I worked so much. And I must also say I've worked in several countries. So I worked in the Netherlands. I'm Dutch. I worked in New York City, the US. I worked in Durban, South Africa, and I worked in London, the UK. And that, and I did a lot of international work. So there's so many beautiful things about it. But the other side is that at a certain point of time, you can only stretch yourself this much. And I found out through a burnout that I always compare it to a little rubber band. When we work, there's a bit of pressure on a rubber band. Now, when we work on a bigger project, there can be like, let's say, 200% pressure on a rubber band. But then when you never relax and when you always constantly work, there is so many really pressure on it that at a certain point of time, if you don't, go back, it snaps, and that's what happens. And it has taken me 15 years. I'm a bit hesitant to say that, but to be calling myself now a recovering workaholic. And I started my own business because I thought, okay, at a certain point of time, I was working 2 jobs. I was in South Africa. My background is tax. I'm a tax lawyer. And I ventured into change management, which I love and still do this day. So in South Africa, I was into tax, but also into change management. And I thought, but this is really, for me, a bit much, 2 jobs. So I thought, why don't I just focus on what brings in the results that my boss and my clients love, right? And to my surprise, it actually worked well. I can really, I can still feel that I was like working less, but getting the results, and it was so much easier. So I thought, this is what I need to share with the world. Now, many of you who have their own business know that it's actually like an accelerator to work even more, because all of a sudden you have to do everything yourself. You feel responsible for selling, marketing, IT, doing the actual work. Sometimes it's insane. So unfortunately, I can't say that I sailed into my business and never learned a lesson. That's why it took me 15 years. And I really, really discovered that you have to become the CEO of your life. You can't just be the CEO of your business, whether it's, within a job or your own business. You really have to take responsibility and you have to make it work, and you have to make different choices that actually suit you. But once you do that, it's amazing.
I'm very drawn, thank you for that. I'm very drawn to your idea of a recovering workaholic. What happened? Or did something happen specifically that made you think, I've got to stop this?
Well, it wasn't just one thing, but it was just the continuous working all the time. And it's like, I couldn't even, I find it sad, but I couldn't even enjoy myself anymore, because I was either constantly thinking of work or on my phone. We all have this little addiction there. You're watching something and you're still on your phone. And I just thought, this isn't true life. I also have a daughter that I didn't spend as much time with. And I just decided, this is not how I want to live.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. We've got a comment from Lana North, who says, "Hi Yvonne, 7 careers, wow. The workaholic story is so familiar to me too." It's interesting that do you think that COVID has perhaps brought this even further in towards people's attention, Yvonne?
Yes and no. So it's how people react to it, right? So there are people that, because and there are many noises out there. There are many people who struggle with this. When there is no boundary anymore between your office and your inner space, your home, people struggle with there are no boundaries, right? So I was joking about the elevator going home and then people making a joke, but at least there is an elevator. At least there is this commute, right? So you can switch off. You can say, I'm leaving my laptop there. I'm not working anymore. Really, my house is my sanctuary. Now, when that falls away and when you're not as good in setting boundaries, things start to blur. So when do I work? When do I rest? When do I do my washing? When do I do my dishwashing? Oh, I do everything. And then you kind of mix it all together. And then it really becomes very hard to say, now I'm working, now I'm not. And then basically what happens to most of us is we work constantly, or we feel we work constantly. But I also know people that have been thriving because they don't have a commute. So like my husband, he's now at home, which is very fortunate for me because he's the best cook. So I have all these amazing meals. So I'm very happy. But you know, he used to have a commute of 1.5, 2 hours one way and the same back. So you can imagine, and he's great at setting boundaries, that he's doing way better. And it's really depending on how well are you to setting boundaries. And when people struggle with it, what I always suggest is act as if you are going to the office. Right. So, for example, if you're saying, I keep myself to my office hours, 9 to 5, then you're not doing any laundry at 10. You're not, because you wouldn't do that in the office, right? Yes. And those little things can really help you to separate the time, but also to keep it at those hours. And I also always say, when you want to be flexible, right? Let's say, okay, it's sunny now. It is actually, I'm taking the afternoon off to go to the beach, but I have to do some work, so I'll do it in the evening. That's fine. But be flexible both ways. And this is where it often goes wrong. I'm flexible in working more. And then I also need to be flexible in taking time off more. And this is what, for me, went wrong in the past. Okay. And now I'm like, no, if I want to take some time off and I work later, that's fine. But I always make sure that there's a balance.
The subject of, I guess, hybrid working is something that is all over the media, and it won't surprise you, and it definitely doesn't surprise me that the big consulting firms are suddenly all experts in hybrid working, which is really funny. I mean, it's also quite sad, but and I'm sure companies are hiring them to help them with that. It is so funny. But do you have any thoughts on it? And I mean, you've obviously started to think about it there, but you know, what could work? I mean, where is your head with it? Because I mean, I've got an opinion, but where do you think it could go in the next, let's say, 18 months?
Well, it's very interesting, right? Because you have those companies where they already said there is no more office, right? Those companies are there, and you actually, there are the more tech-savvy companies where they actually were used to already engaging a lot through screens and really working that way. And then there are, for example, banks that already have said, as soon as it's possible, we want everybody to come back into the office. Now, there are a couple of ways to looking at it. I think if you look from an employer perspective, you have a lot to gain to at least offer a hybrid. Because what it has shown that the reasons we used to have for not being able to work from home have been vanished. And there's a lot of question for people who want to work in ideal remote places, right? So when it doesn't matter where I work, whether I choose rainy in England or rainy The Hague, or I go to Albufeira in Portugal where it's sunny,
yes,
I know where I'm heading. And I think this is what's going to happen. People will become more mobile and they will start working where they want to work. But from a legislation perspective, there's a lot to do still, because you have immigration, social security, pension, payments, payroll, you name it. But this is, I think, to be honest, I think it's unstoppable. But I'm very certain that people need help to make sure that they're not getting overworked, because there are less boundaries. It is easier to just log in, quickly do things. And people need to be protected from that, because the last thing we want is more workaholics.
Yes. It's going to be interesting, this, because that's lovely. Thank you for sharing that. I you know, you framed it very well. And I quite like the idea of living somewhere where it's sunny.
I chose a coast place for you.
Yeah. Oh dear. I guess I've got little niggles about it, because I share your concerns about things like, you know, the paying performance, employment legislation. You know, when you have something like Brexit happening in the United Kingdom, which has made things, you know, we've got empty shelves in our supermarkets right now. We're going to have to then deal with, you know, pan-global workplace legislation, which is something that, it's going to be, I mean, it's hard enough dealing with it, you know, within your country, never mind external to your country. So that obviously is going to be a huge issue. So I think that I might have this wrong, and I'd be interested in your perspective. I think there's some of us, you're right about technology, and I think those of us who are perhaps in better jobs might be able to have that flexibility. I can't imagine yet it working, you know, all the way down the different levels. Now, that might just be an interim situation, because perhaps the levels will go. You know, there could be all sorts of things happen, Yvonne. But I think some companies have been really silly about this, like saying we're going all working from home, because there are people that are, and I think I'm one of them, and I've been self-employed for 10 years, everyone, and I hate it. You know, I love being self-employed, but I really miss the interaction with people that I used to have in the office.
Yeah.
And during COVID, I mean, for some people, it was like they had more time. I had less time because I've got kids, you know, loads of them. They're all over the place. But I worry that some people are they're going to be mentally ill because of it. You know, it's going to be a negative. So it will be interesting to see how it develops. Have you any thoughts on that?
Well, you know, you mentioned a very important thing, right? Children. I mean, I have a 10-year-old, and I had to homeschool her for a while. Well, I was very happy that my husband and I were together, because we could say, "You're up now." I'm taking a break. It's your turn. Yes. And you know, and we've only one. And she's already into school, and she is quite independent. But if you've got smaller children and there's no backup, or there, you know, it really complicates matters. So I think that's definitely there. And then you're also, questions I have received from people is also, how do I make sure that the leadership really sees what I'm doing? There are people that are really worried about it, that they are not seen, because there's no more coffee table chat, there's no more I quickly walk into the office. So it really asks a lot of you how you get those interactions. Like you say, a lot of people thrive from it. I'm very much an introvert. So, but I have a lot of interaction with fellow entrepreneurs as well. So through the chat, or, I call them, but it's really, you have to make it you find your best way. And I'm in a way, I also see that more and more people will become their own, how do you say it, their own boss.
Yes.
We really move into the network setup of new businesses. So where they not hire you as an employee, but where you come in as a freelancer, that's going to happen more. But the need for personal contact is always going to be there. So then I think what you will have is like those coffee shops, not the Dutch one, but the, the ones where you can sit and where you share office space. That's, I think, what will happen, because people crave interaction.
Yes. So do you see the future of work, if you like, or maybe it's work-life balance, which I have issues with? I've always had issues with that phrase. It implies out of balance. I've always had an issue with it. But I think I'd be interested in your thoughts on how organizations can deal with this, because I think a lot of people are worried about abusing the system, people abusing the system. Have you any advice for employers in that respect?
Yes. So there's a couple of things happening already, and a couple of things I highly recommend. So I think it's important from an employer perspective, when people are at home, that you still do something about the social elements, because we all need that social environment. And what do I mean by that? So if we can't go to the pub together, we'll have a social interaction. It's not the same, but you can still make it fun. That's things that really, really need to happen. And they're like escape rooms online, and I don't know, quizzes and things. That's one thing. The other thing is also, you need to be aware of boundaries, right? So one example, if you don't want your employees to work day and night, and I know that when I was in a leadership position, I didn't do this right, so I can I can just share this.
Yeah.
I would send out emails at 11 p.m. or 12 p.m. because that was when it came up, and I was sending it out. The message you're giving with that is that I am working all the time, and in a way, I'm expecting you as my employee to do the same. Right. So be aware of that. Really encourage people to take time off. And I think what we're moving to, and this is for a lot of employers, but a lot of people as well, hard to grasp. It's not so much more an hour organization we're working in. And I'll tell you what it is just now. But it's more a product output organization we're moving towards to. So what do I mean with an hour organization? It's where we come in at 9 and we leave at 7, or we will never leave before the boss goes home, right? It is all about the hours I make in the office, and to be seen for it. Even though I'm surfing the internet, I'm in the office, I'm there, I'm making my hours, oh, look at me. What I truly believe in, and I think it's a good thing, is that we're more getting into the output. So I need to deliver a certain job. I'm doing that for you. It doesn't matter whether I do that from 9 to 5 or 9 to 7 or 9 to 3. Or I work on it in the morning, go to the beach in the afternoon, and work a bit further in night. It really, really becomes to that. But not every organization has that level of trust, has that infrastructure, and is ready to embrace it. But this is what I think is inevitable and what we're moving towards to. And you need to set up your organization to be ready for it.
Okay, that's very, very interesting. When we come back from a short break, Yvonne, I'd like to ask you about your artifact.
Yes.
And I'd like to build. There's something else I want to ask you about. A picture of you, because it's a brilliant picture. But just for a few moments, though, I'm just going to talk about something else that I'm dealing with at the moment, working on at the moment myself. Those of you who have been following the show, and I know there's a lot of you have been doing that, and I really appreciate you, will know that I've started to think about ways that I can package some of the learning that we've had from the show into an event. And I've now ran 3 last Thursday of the month events through what's called the Funzing platform. And I'd just like to remind you that I'm doing one this Thursday. And we got some amazing feedback from the last one, and I'll just show you it. But I'm really proud of this because I feel like we're developing it together, and it's getting tighter. But let me just show you this little video. So this week, we're going to be, I've twisted it a little bit and we're building it. I created in the last event the 5 foundations of storytelling. I'm going to really, really ramp those up. So if you're interested in a little bit more of this, please join me on Thursday. The link is in my profile. It's the Funzing platform. I'll stick it on the screen at the end just in case you'd be interested. But let's bring my guest back because I'm enjoying this. This is really interesting. Hello, you're welcome back again. Oh, I got myself. There you go. 2 things. There's some feedback I just want to give you from people who are tuning in, which I thought you'd like. I'm sure you can see some of that. There's a question about being outcome focused and rather than hours focused. Can you imagine how hard that's going to be for the Big Four and for the other accountancy firms? Yeah. It's going to be so funny.
Yeah,
so funny. So yeah, that was good. And then Lana North again has said it's so true. Interaction and connection are intrinsic to human nature, even for those of us who are introverts. Yeah. I mean, I don't think there are many people, Lana, out there who can cope being on their own. We're not meant to be on our own. You're a hermit if you're on your own, and I don't think we're going to end up with us all ending up as hermits. At least I hope not. But anyway, thank you for any thoughts on that, Yvonne?
No, I think it's very true. We all crave human contact, and you know, it's, for example, I know why my mom is always having the television on. You know, she's on her own, and at least there is human interaction. It's not the same. And it's what we all want. I think if the pandemic has learned us one thing, is that we really crave human contact, and that we actually value. I like that. I think we value the human contact even more, whereas we used to take it a lot for granted. So that's at least what has brought it to me. And also, maybe, you know, sometimes when you're stuck with someone for a long time, it also may have brought you other insights, right?
Yes, absolutely. So I want to, I did suggest before we went live that I'd talk to you about this, because when I was doing my research about Yvonne, I looked at her website and there was a picture on there and it just popped. It was a brilliant picture. And when I asked Yvonne about it, there's a story. So look at the picture. Here it is here. Look at that picture. Where did that idea come from?
Well, it's a funny story. So for those of you who like U2, and I mean the old U2, you may recall the Joshua Tree, which is an album that I really loved. And there's a very, very famous picture of the Joshua Tree, which is actually a cactus. And the picture is taken by a photographer, Anton Corbijn, who happens to be Dutch, by the way. And Anton Corbijn has done a photo shoot for a jeans brand, which is called G-Star, which is also Dutch, by the way, now that I thought about it.
Oh, there's a bit of a theme developing here.
No, I don't think we have that things we're famous for, but apparently we do. Anyway, and I really like those. I like the jeans. I like to wear them. They are not like the Italian brands that are really for tiny waists, but they are made for me. So, and they there was this photo or the, how do you say that, the launch of jeans, and they use there you go, this picture, you can see it already, right? Yes. I really love it. And the photo shoot they did for G-Star, or Anton Corbijn did, is also really, I think it's very powerful. And I was asked to be featured on a magazine, which is coming out very soon. And I said, yes, I'll do it. But then I thought, oh my word, I need new pictures. And instantly, Anton Corbijn and the photo shoot he did for G-Star came to mind. And I asked my photographer, can we do the shoot like that? And it all started with the shoot. And, you know, the people he put on the picture were models and things. I said, I know I'm not instantly gonna turn into a model. I don't have those hopes, but I just really, it's, for me, it's a bit like the toughness, the rawness, but the realness. That's what I really like. And I love black and white. And I've been doing, I really, yeah, it's basically, it's true, it's me. And by the way, the funny thing is, it's also G-Star jeans I'm wearing. So yeah, that's how it came together, and I'm very pleased with the way it all turned out. It's what I stand for.
Yes, I think you've proven a point beautifully there, because stories can be embedded in images as much as they can, verbalized. So it's lovely. And I think what I particularly like about it, Yvonne, I mean, it just, as I say, it popped. It's a very strong image. But I think maybe today, again, because of the more of us living our life a little bit more online, I think the edge that you can have by having a photograph that you've thought about, that's got a story, that like your background, these little things that we show the world now, they tell a story, and I think that's a great example. Honestly, I love it. It's a really good example. Thank you very much, and thanks for telling us the story. I asked you beforehand if you would bring a little artifact with you, and you've got something for us to have a look at and a little story behind it. So what's your artifact?
So my artifact, I think it really ties in what we spoke about today. I have a iPad, and I'm gonna bring it forward. Can you read it? You are amazing,
and don't you forget it.
Yes. Yes. So the reason why I choose this iPad is it actually got a couple of stories to it. So yes. First of all, when I started my business as a coach, there wasn't a lot of online coaching yet, because COVID didn't happen. And I traveled around. I lived around, and I love to travel. And maybe we can talk about that. But for me, it always had to be online coaching, because I want to travel myself, being able to connect with my clients, and I want to work with clients worldwide, because that's what I've done my entire life and what I love to do best. So I work now, for example, with clients in the UK, in Belgium, in the US, I've got many clients, and it just works. So you need a mobile device to be able to work from everywhere. That's where it started. Yeah. Then the reason why it is extra special is because my husband gave it to me. And when I started my business, he was supporting me, but I worked for large corporations my entire life. And then all of a sudden I was like, hey, I'm starting my own business. So he had a bit of a, is this going to turn out well? And he just brought this to me with this inscription. So this is his inscription to remind me every day that I'm actually amazing and I'm going to make it. So that's really, it's like a pick-me-up. And also my company name is Amaze Yourself.
Yes.
And, this is something I say to my clients as well a lot, just to help them, because it's all I honestly believe that it's already in everyone. Sometimes you just need a little nudge to get it out, and that can be a coach or a partner or a conversation like we're having now. But I just want everybody really to remember how amazing they are and not to forget it. So that's why I thought, let me bring my iPad, because it stands for so many things.
That's fabulous. Thank you. I like it. You mentioned travel.
Yes.
What does travel mean to you? How do you respond to travel in your life?
Well, I don't know about you, Scott, but it was the one thing that I really, really struggled with during the pandemic. And I love to connect, like make a true connection with people. I love to learn new things, and I love to go to new places. And traveling for me is what it is. I mean, I've lived in 4 countries, 3 continents, and I'm sure there are more to come. And I didn't travel for a long time. So this summer we were able to go to Italy, and that was so amazing that last weekend we traveled with the train to Paris. And it is just something, right? Like this weekend, in 3 hours we were in Paris, and you walk on the street, you sit on a terrace, you enjoy the French food, the French wine, the people. It is like, I can't even describe it. For me, it is such a special experience that I love. You know, it just brings me so many things, and I've been to so many places, and I'm not done yet. One of the questions in the magazine was actually, what's your favorite holiday spot?
Yes.
And I said, well, I have yet to discover, but I keep on searching. You know.
Very good. Very good. I always liked. Have you heard of Anthony Bourdain?
Of course.
Travel American travel writer, and who sadly took his own life a couple of years ago. I love him, and he always said that, you know, if you're 21, start traveling and never stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so nice, isn't it? It's so powerful, so powerful.
Yeah. And what I just because he has amazing shows. He's really you know, he used to be, because obviously he's not longer with us, but he used to be a great cook, and he traveled the world and brought the food to him. And I'm married to an amazing foodie, right? So that's why I know. Because like we went to New Orleans, and he's like, oh, we need to go here and here and here based on those stories. But what I loved about the shows that Anthony Bourdain put out is that it didn't matter where he went for the food, the true food, and the true connection. Yes. And I think that's important for us all. It doesn't really matter, but it's all about the true connection that you have to make.
That's a lovely way of putting it. And I think Bourdain is what a great example. I was struggling to find a black and white picture there because I wanted to keep the theme going, Yvonne. Yeah, I got one. I think Bourdain is a great example of a storyteller who tells stories in a context that, as you say, it's within the cooking context, but it's about so much more than cooking. So much more than cooking. It's about what it means to be human. It's quite extraordinary. So, well, look, we've come here to the end, but there is a really interesting question for you here that I thought we should have a go at. And it's for you, and it is, what do you want your legacy to be? That's come from a LinkedIn user.
It's a interesting question. So there's a couple of aspects to it for me. I want my legacy to be that people know that they can enjoy themselves, right? So it's really being the CEO of your life, not just work, but enjoy your life. That's if people get that. Sometimes I get a message from people who follow me on LinkedIn. Like I need to share this story with you. It's so amazing for me. I got a message from an accountant, an auditor, who sent me a message in April. She's in the US, and April is like, you know, March, April is high season there for auditors.
Yes.
And she told me, thanks to you, I took a day off in high season and I went to the sauna or whatever. She went to have a pampering day. And she said, I would have never done it would I have not followed you on LinkedIn. And that's, for me, that's what I want people to remember. On a more personal level, to also speak about that, like I already mentioned, I have a daughter, and I want her to see, I think, what most parents will want for their children, but that they can be anything they want, that they can have fun in life, that, you know, work can be amazing, and that you can still spend quality time with your family and your children and have a great life while you also have great work. I really want to empower her. And I think with everything that's going on in the world right now, if I can raise a child that feels she can do everything with everyone, then you know.
I think that's a lovely way to bring this to a close. Thank you for sharing your stories, and thank you for the artifact. That was lovely. That was a really good artifact. I loved that. And if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that, Yvonne?
They can go to my website. You mentioned it already quite a few times, or they can find me on LinkedIn, send me a message. I'm always happy to connect, always happy to chat. And even if you just want to really share some of the burdens you were going through, I'm here, happy to talk.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for being a guest on Artefact Live. I've really enjoyed talking with you. It's been really interesting, and I hope one day we can have another conversation. Thank you.
I would like that. Thank you so much, Scott, for having me. It was great.
Pleasure. So I hope, put the wrong picture up. You think by now I'd know how to do it. You know, I'm 50 episodes in and I still get that wrong. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I loved it. And I think that you are amazing. And don't forget it piece was particularly lovely. And so thanks very much, Yvonne. That was outstanding. There's a number of things that it's made me think of, and I'm going to ponder them, and I'll come back to them in future shows, but very, very interesting. But there's just a couple of things I want to end with. One is, of course, that, you know, I want to encourage, like my, you know, this is my Indiana Jones chalice. You know, I want you to be an archaeologist of your own life. I want you to do what Yvonne just did. You know, look for stories in your life, because you know what? Those stories can act as an empathy engine. Those stories can change the way the world sees you and sees itself. It's so important. And I genuinely believe that those stories can change the world. So thank you very much for tuning in this week. Next week, I'm going to be joined by the wonderful Olivia James, who's a Harley Street trauma specialist. I know Olivia, and she tells a wonderful story, and she's got a lot to say. And I think her work is becoming increasingly important in the post-COVID world. So thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you found that interesting. Remember, your stories can change the world, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.